You ever wonder why experts, people who are supposed to know what they're doing, so often disagree? Why one doctor gives a totally different diagnosis than another for the exact same patient? Or why different teams at work come up with wildly different estimates for the same project? We usually blame this stuff on bias, right? But there's this other, much bigger problem hiding in plain sight. Today, we are digging into this idea called noise. It's a massive and pretty much invisible flaw in how all of us make judgments. So let's just start with a simple question. Imagine you've got two judges. They're looking at the exact same criminal case. Same facts, same evidence, same everything. In a world that's fair, you'd expect the sentence to be pretty much the same, wouldn't you? Of course. But what if I told you that's often not the case at all? What if the sentence you get could depend, heavily, on the luck of the draw, on which judge happens to get your case that day? And look, this isn't just some thought experiment. This kind of thing happens all the time. This huge difference in sentencing between judges is a perfect example of what the authors of the book Noise call the judgment lottery. It means that in countless high-stakes situations, the outcome isn't just about the facts, it's about the random chance of who's making the call. Your fate, in a lot of ways, is literally decided by a lottery. All right, so let's dig into this judgment lottery. In this first part, we're going to explore just how widespread this shocking variability in professional judgment really is. It's kind of wild. Just look at this quote from the book. Getting a patent, something that could be worth millions of dollars, has a lot to do with the happenstance of which examiner gets your application. I mean, think about that. We're not talking about small stuff here. Your multi-million-dollar idea can literally depend on who happens to pick up your file. And this lottery isn't just for patents. In child protection, for example, some caseworkers are just way more likely to place a child in foster care than others. In medicine, one doctor's diagnosis can be radically different from the next. It's everywhere. Okay, so to really get a grip on noise, we need to separate it from a word we're all a bit more familiar with: bias. They're both types of errors in judgment, but as you're about to see, they're very, very different things. So, bias. We've all heard of it. Bias is a predictable, systematic error. The easiest way to think about it is like a bathroom scale that's always 5 pounds high. Every time you step on it, it tells you you're 5 pounds heavier. The error is always there, and it's always pushing in the same direction. Noise, on the other hand, is completely different. It's a random, unpredictable error. It's like a scale that gives you a different weight every single time you step on it. One minute you're 5 pounds heavy, the next you're 3 pounds light, then maybe it's spot on. There's no pattern at all, just a random scatter of results. It's a mess. And here's where you can really see that split. Bias is predictable, right? It's a consistent skew. Noise is just pure random scatter. The key thing is, both of them lead to you being wrong. But understanding this difference is absolutely crucial if you actually want to fix the problem. The best way to visualize this is the classic shooting target analogy. Imagine a shooter with a bias. They're very consistent, but they're not accurate. All their shots land together, but they're all in the bottom left corner, away from the bullseye. Now, a noisy shooter, they're just all over the place. Their shots are scattered randomly all around the target. In both cases, you miss the bullseye, right? But noise is often so much harder to spot and to correct because there's no clear, consistent pattern to fix. Okay, so we've got a handle on what noise is, but you might be thinking, so what? Why does this matter? Well, it matters because this random error isn't some small academic thing. It has enormous and really expensive consequences in the real world. Get this number: 71%. A study asked a group of software developers to estimate how long a task would take, and they asked them on 2 separate days. Their own estimates for the very same task differed on average by a staggering 71%. That is a massive amount of noise in a field that's supposed to be all about precision. But the stakes get so much higher when you look at something like medicine. In one study of radiologists reading mammograms, the rate of false negatives, that is, missing a cancer that is actually there, ranged from a perfect 0% for some doctors to over 50% for others. Let that sink in. Some radiologists were missing more than half the cases. That's noise, and its cost is measured in human lives. And once you start looking for it, you see it's absolutely everywhere. The premium you're quoted for insurance, your annual performance review at work, even a judge's decision about who gets custody of a child. All of these critical judgments are just riddled with noise, and that leads to unfairness, inefficiency, and massive costs for everybody. So this all sounds pretty bad. What can we possibly do about it? Well, the good news is this isn't an unsolvable problem.
The authors of Noise introduced this really powerful concept they call decision hygiene. Think of it as a set of practical, preventative steps to clean up our decision-making process.
Now, it's really important to get this straight. The goal of decision hygiene is not to replace human experts with robots or algorithms. Not at all. It's about structuring the way we think to make our uniquely human insights more reliable, more consistent, and at the end of the day, a whole lot less noisy. So how do we actually do this? Well, it really boils down to 3 key ideas. First, you've got to structure the decision. Instead of making one big gut-feeling judgment, break the problem down into smaller, independent pieces and look at each one separately. Second, aggregate independent judgments. This is a big one. It means getting everyone's real opinion before a group discussion starts. This helps you avoid groupthink and really taps into the wisdom of the crowd. And third, take an outside view. Don't get completely lost in the details of the specific case in front of you. Instead, look at historical data for similar situations to ground your judgment in reality. Now, this isn't just for big organizations or judges in courtrooms. This is a mental model you can start using in your own life, in your own work, to start spotting and reducing the hidden noise that's all around you. You know, the single most important step you can possibly take is just to admit that noise is real, to accept that it affects you, and that your own judgments are probably way more variable than you think they are. It's really just a dose of intellectual humility, and it's what opens the door to actually getting better. So I want you to think back for a second. Think about a big decision your team made last week, or maybe a family discussion about a major purchase. When you were getting everyone's opinion, did one person speak first and kind of anchor everyone else's thinking? Or did you make an effort to collect everyone's independent thoughts first? The answer to that probably tells you a lot about the amount of noise in your own process. And that leaves us with its one final question to really ponder. From your career moves to your financial investments, even to your personal relationships, what is the hidden cost of random error? The cost of noise in the decisions that matter most to you? Because just recognizing it is the first and most important step to finally fixing it.